Welcome back to another video on the channel. I really hope you have been enjoying the videos recently. If you have been, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like. As promised, I am going to be bringing you a little bit of a different video today where I give an overview of how much it cost me to travel to Switzerland. If you have not already, please check out my Austria and Switzerland road trip, which is on the channel. Switzerland often gets the reputation for being super expensive, and it definitely can be. So I saved every single receipt. I broke it down into some different categories, and we're going to take a look at how much it cost me to travel to Switzerland last summer. Before we dig in, some ground rules of what we are working with. So, of course, not everyone is going to travel exactly like we did. Some people may want to stay in nicer places or less nicer places, eat at less nicer or nicer restaurants, do more activities than we did, or not drink, for example. Additionally, I used miles, points, a gift card, and industry discounts to book pretty much all of my hotels. However, the prices that I'm going to show you do not take those discounts into account. So those are full price. However, I'm sure many of you have loyalty points or credit card miles that you can use to lower the cost of your hotels. Additionally, at the time of recording, the Swiss franc was exactly equal to $1. Nowadays, it is 1 franc for every 1.1 US dollars, so it is a little bit more expensive for Americans to travel to Switzerland. Furthermore, I didn't include the transportation of getting to Switzerland because I'm sure a lot of people will come from different places and countries, and that can vary the cost wildly. Furthermore, all of the costs in the video are for 2 people where applicable. So of course, hotel or rental car will have a fixed price, whether it's for 1 or 2 people. But for meals and activities, you can assume they can be roughly cut in half if you're solo. And then this is for 6 nights in Switzerland, although really only 5 full days of being there since we arrived in an evening and then left early on the final day. Okay, so you would have heard my intro, and I'm now going to walk through how much we spent in Switzerland. So our trip started by arriving into Zurich by train from Austria. We ended up being in Zurich for 2 nights, and we stayed at the Boutique Hotel Wellenberg, which all in was about $462. From there, we had dinner near the hotel. And most of our dinners on this trip will include 1 appetizer to split, 2 entrees, and about 4 drinks between us. It will also include all taxes and gratuity. Additionally, most of our dinners were what I would call on the fancier side. So you can see in Zurich, we had 2 dinners. Both were over 100 franc. Of course, we're on vacation. We also had plenty of drinks. So one night we went to a bar before dinner and spent 47 franc. But one way you can save money when in Switzerland is to go to the grocery store or even like the equivalent of a liquor store and get some beers to go. So we did that, and you can see the contrast in price there. We had 1 lunch while we were in Zurich, and for the purpose of this video, most of our lunches were at a more casual restaurant or on the go. And so we ate at the oldest vegetarian restaurant in the world, and that was our price there. We also grabbed chocolate for a snack. In Switzerland, we focused mainly on sightseeing. We did a lot of window shopping. And then I did list out the cost of all of our activities. So in Zurich, we climbed 1 church. It was €2 each. We also went to the Lindt Home of Chocolate, which was 15 per person. To get there, we did have to take Ubers both ways. We could have taken the train, but I think it would have been similar pricing. And then additionally, we did pick up our rental car in Zurich, which we had for 2+ days with unlimited mileage. It did have a one-way surcharge as we left the car in Geneva and did not return it in Zurich. It also included all tolls, and then later on I'll show you how much we paid for gas. We did pick up a souvenir magnet, and then in total spent almost 1,200 franc on our time in Zurich. The next day we left Zurich and drove to Lucerne. Again, we did mainly free sightseeing. We did walk through a couple of markets. And then from there, we went to the mountain park and rode the alpine coaster featured in a previous video. And this was the most expensive activity of our whole trip. So you can see the chocolate and the juice we had for breakfast, I guess, the cost there. And then the cost of the gondola and mountain coaster, 107 all in, plus we had to park, so even a little bit more. And for our morning stop there, we spent a total of almost 144 franc. That afternoon, we drove to Interlaken. We spent the whole afternoon hiking in Lauterbrunnen, which is free. And then we spent the evening in Interlaken. We went to this hotel, which we were not staying at, but is a very fancy, nice hotel in town. We had a couple of drinks and an appetizer while we watched paragliders land in front of the hotel. We went to dinner, and then we picked up a couple more drinks to go, again from a grocery store, and enjoyed them while walking around town. Souvenir magnet was the only souvenir we bought there. We had a little bit of a parking cost in Lauterbrunnen, but not too expensive. And then all in for this hotel was 313 franc for a total of 467 spent in Interlaken. The next morning, we left Interlaken and drove to Bern, which is the capital. We just walked through town. We didn't have any activities we did there, but we did grab some tea and a souvenir as well. So spent a few bucks in Bern before heading to Montreux, where we had a beautiful lunch at a Thai restaurant on the water. We got this big sort of sampler plate, which was more than enough food to feed two of us. That was the only thing we got there, I believe. We might have had a drink or two before grabbing ice cream after walking back through the town, which was $15 for the both of us, though I did get quite a big serving. So we spent a total of 114 on those two stops. So eventually we made it to Geneva, and this is where we ended up dropping the rental car. From there, things did get quite expensive, and I think that is for two main reasons. One, I think Geneva is generally just more pricey of a place, kind of like New York is more expensive than Kansas City. I think Geneva is just more expensive than other places in Switzerland like Zurich or the places we had been before. Additionally, you see, we spent quite a bit of money to stay at this hotel, which we did pay for in part utilizing a $1,000 Marriott gift card that I had received from exceeding a sales goal at an old job. So this hotel was part of Marriott hotels, and we would not have stayed at a hotel that expensive without that gift card. But that being said, many of the drinks and the meals that we had at the property were marked up significantly because of the 5-star service and the 5-star quality. So back on the food and drink side for Geneva, our most expensive meal of the trip was right here, the Lebanese dinner at Arabesque. I think that's how you say that, which was 160 franc. We also had cocktails in the lobby before that dinner. I think this was for 4 drinks, $74. So you can see right there how expensive this hotel was. We did really only have one full day in Geneva because we arrived in the evening, and then the next day we did sightseeing in Geneva. It was mainly free. We did stop into one church and climb up to the top, which was 4 franc each, but it was exceptionally hot when we were in Geneva. It was almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And so being out and about all day was really tiring. We spent a lot of time at the pool of our hotel. And that's where some of these beers came in. Instead of paying lobby prices for beers, I just went to the grocery store next door and bought beers for us that were cold and a hell of a lot cheaper. So overall, the food and drinks in Geneva were over $500. We did take a day trip to Annecy on our other day that we had there, which is actually in France, but I did include that here just because I know a lot of people may do that on their trip to Switzerland. So the round trip to Annecy by train for 2 was 79 franc. And then they had an amazing farmer's market there, which you may have seen in my past video. And we had lunch and bought a couple small things there and spent a little over 20, I guess, euro when we were in Annecy. All of the gas for driving all the way across Switzerland was only 34 franc, which I thought was great. And the taxi to the airport was even more than that. So it was almost 40 franc to get to the airport from the Geneva town center. Geneva is where we did pick up some additional souvenirs. We brought home a good bit of Swiss chocolate for the family, which was almost 100. My wife ended up buying 2 dresses and a tote from a relatively cheap store, all things considered. And then we had our souvenir magnet. And then again, this hotel was very expensive. We would not have stayed there without the help of the gift card, but all in, if you do want to stay at that hotel, for example, you could expect to pay about $2,500 in Geneva. That being said, I even said it in my Geneva video, I would probably skip Geneva on your trip, but it is a convenient airport to maybe start or end at. All that being said, here's everything from the previous tabs. All in for our trip to Switzerland, we were just under 4,400 franc. I would say that overall, the cost of food and drinks around 1,184 franc, I think was reasonable for 2 people for the amount of time we were there. We really capitalized on breakfast at the hotel and relatively quick and affordable lunches. And when we're on vacation, we prefer to go out to nicer dinners. I think we were probably light on the cost of activities. I think a lot of people will probably spend more on gondolas, for example, to do more extreme hiking, or maybe we'll stop into museums, which we did not really do. A lot of what we did was free and just general sightseeing. I think that overall our transportation costs were fairly reasonable. I imagine if we bought 2 Swiss rail passes and commuted by train across the country for the amount of time we were there, we would have spent well above this. I mean, that being, is a good example, is $79 for a round trip to Annecy. So you buy a couple round trip train tickets and you're already at the cost of rental car and fuel and parking. So we found it really easy to rent a car, to park, and to drive around. I think that the cost of souvenirs could swing wildly depending on what you want to buy. You buy a Swiss watch, well, then you're going to spend more than $223 like we did on chocolate and magnets. And then I think we were probably leaning on the expensive side for hotels, helped tremendously by the cost of the President Wilson here. But, if you imagine a 2-night stay for $461 and then another, $313 for Interlaken, you add that together and maybe you're all in closer to 800 for another 3-night stay. Let's see if we change that to 800. That takes it down to a more reasonable hotel cost there. So hopefully you enjoyed the video and this helps you understand and budget for your trip to Switzerland. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any questions. Like I said, I saved every single receipt, so this is exactly how much it costs, and hope to see you next time. Please like and subscribe.